Jones with me, commentary editor here at IBD, breaking down day 3 of the IBD tip poll results, which again showed Trump leading by 1. And this was the first poll results that we have that took into account some debate reaction perhaps, but that seems like it was non-existent, not really moving the needle at all there.
Yeah, it didn't really impact it at all, or very little if it did. Our number shows, pretty solidly that he's got a 1-point lead right now. Now that makes us one of the outlier polls, but it's the numbers are the numbers. So the reason is probably pretty simple. We do not just take a one-day poll. I think a lot of people misunderstand what our poll is about. The it's not a one-day poll, it's a 6-day poll, basically. It's a 6-day moving average of the poll. So only the current day's data really impact at all the change, and that's only about 1/6 of the data.
Exactly, that's right. So, we saw a lot of, media uproar about Trump's response to this one question. So, but that really hasn't impacted it yet. Are you expecting, with 5 more days of polling data for something to show up there? Or is the fact that this was the 3rd debate, it's just not as important to people?
I think it was that, and I mean, in all honesty, it was a big flap about not much of anything, and I think most people have ignored it largely. To the media, it was a big deal.
Right.
I mean, they were out there saying that this was the game changer, the game ender, and all sorts of things like that. But I think for most people, they are looking more at concrete things from the candidates at this point, if they haven't made up their minds. And let's be honest, probably 90 to 95% of all people have made up their minds already. So they're not going to change, based on one random comment by Donald Trump. And of course, Donald Trump is who he is. I mean, he is not going to suddenly become a milk toasty sort of, say nothing kind of candidate. He's a guy who's always out there, always saying something controversial, something loud, something obnoxious, something annoying. Sometimes he accidentally stumbles into something profound, but that's a little rarer. But it's still, he says a lot of interesting things, and this one comment in this one debate, I don't think is going to last with the electorate at all. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just doesn't seem like it has as yet sunk into anyone.
Right, you mentioned the vast majority of people have already made up their minds. Yeah. So as far as undecideds go, what are they waiting for, I think is the big question.
Yeah, it is a question, and I think for some of them it's, especially in this election, more than other past elections. I've been through quite a few of these election cycles with our polling, and I think in this election, the negatives of both candidates are so high. They're much higher than in any other election I've ever covered, and I go back to the 80s, and they are not comfortable with either candidate. And I'm actually, in all honesty, I'm surprised that the number of people who have said they're undecided or not really certain who they're voting for is as low as it is. I thought it would be a double-digit number, but it's really very low. It's 5 or 6% in our polling, and
is that comparable with past elections or a little higher?
I think, as I recall, and I have not looked at the data recently, but as I recall, it was a lot higher in previous elections.
Oh, that's quite interesting then.
Yeah, and it seems funny to me that we would have a 5% number or thereabouts. I think it is. I think it's 5%. 5%, not sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, well, as far as independents go then, how are they really playing into the breakdown here?
It's interesting because one of the things people focus on a lot when we're talking about a poll is we always think, oh, we have a 2-party system. Therefore, we have to look at the Democrats and we have to look at the Republicans. Those are the 2 parties. Well, there actually are 3 major parties. One of them doesn't call itself a party, but it's called independent. And those are mostly disaffected Democrats and Republicans who find themselves at odds with a number of the policies pursued by those parties, and then they become independents. They say, well, I don't want to associate with them anymore, but I still share a lot of beliefs with them. So the independents are absolutely vital. and they make up 34% of the electorate. So they're the largest block of voters out there, apart from Democrats. They're just below Democrats. Democrats are 36 or 37% of the electorate, and so it's a very significant block of voters, and they tend to be fiscally conservative and socially liberal.
Right.
So they're more centrist. And
why then do you think that the Libertarian Party doesn't have more followers then? Because I feel like a lot of people who are libertarian identify with what you just said.
You know, that's a very interesting question, because a lot of the people, other polls have shown that a lot of the people who are in the independent ranks consider themselves to be libertarians. And it may be because, you know, for a variety of reasons. Some of them might be religious libertarians, and they oftentimes don't feel very comfortable in the Libertarian Party, which sort of has a non-religious feel to it to a lot of people.
Foreign policy, I feel like, is always a big sticking point.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it is a big sticking point, because some people who consider themselves libertarian, or in some cases they call them objectivists, some of them are very, very strong on foreign policy, and they don't like the libertarian, basic idea that, American policy should end at our borders, basically. We should. That's a simplification, but
right.
But they're much less likely to get us involved in something overseas, and so I think that's a big part of it. But a significant number of the independents do self-identify as libertarian or libertarian leaning.
That's interesting. Now, moving on to religion, we have done a breakdown for this weekend's paper, and so I feel like those results are kind of interesting. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's intriguing to me, because what we see is, when we ask people questions in our poll, we ask them, well, what is your religious background? We ask them if they're Catholic or Protestant or other, and then the final answer is none, which basically is either you're not affiliated or you're an atheist,
right.
Basically you don't believe in God. And so the interesting thing is that the more religious people are, the tendency is to be more for Trump. And the less religious, the tendency is to be for Hillary Clinton. Now, I'm not imputing a value to that. I'm merely saying that is what the numbers say.
Right.
And so people have wondered, how could the evangelicals, who used to be, they used to have a lot of litmus tests for their candidates, how could the evangelicals be so avid for Trump? I think they see, they probably recognize that he's not a profoundly religious person, but they probably, my guess is, see his policies as being more perhaps ultimately friendly to their ideas and beliefs. And I know a lot of Christian voters are very, I would say, big on constitutional issues, and they might be a little bit afraid of Hillary Clinton's Supreme Court picks and with regard to religion and things of that sort. So I think that's, they see, Donald Trump is the guy that they have available, so they're going to ride that horse.
All right, well, thank you so much for your insight. You can take a look at that graphic that we'll have in the paper over this weekend, and it'll go online after that. So take a look at investors.com/poll for more details. We also have links in the description to this post. Thanks so much, Terry, and thanks for watching.